Enjoy your time here and find peace in the stories we tell. If you liked the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. I was born a lady of noble lineage, with a figure as slender as a willow branch in the wind. Yet, at a grand banquet in the imperial palace, a single gesture was all it took to make me famous throughout the land. You wish to ask what that gesture was? It was at the very moment an assassin targeted the emperor. I simply leaned slightly, raised my hands with a gentle flick, and in an instant, lifted the emperor clean over my head, ensuring his imperial safety. General Liam Chen arrived just half a step behind me, his gaze as sharp as a blade sweeping over me. Who are you? Before I could even speak, another assassin lunged at his back. Left with no choice, I had to perform yet another gesture. My left hand shot out, and I decisively lifted the great general himself. And now, let's begin our story. The second day after returning to the capital, I happened to attend the 100 Flowers banquet, personally hosted by the eldest princess. My parents had no time to teach me the complete court etiquette, only offering a few words of caution: speak sparingly, act with restraint, and avoid overstepping my bounds. I nodded timidly and followed my mother just as timidly into the banquet. During the feast, Madame Xu, seated at an adjacent table, struck up a conversation with my mother. This young lady looks rather unfamiliar. My mother calmly replied. She is my youngest daughter. She was frail since childhood, so we sent her to the countryside to recover. She only returned to the capital yesterday. And she has grown so much. It was widely known throughout the capital that Grand Tutor Meng's daughter was born premature, with a congenitally weak constitution and a history of constant minor illnesses. A high master had once read my fortune and declared my life was destined to be short and fragile. To ensure I could grow up safely, Grand Tutor Meng sent me, while I was still learning to speak, to Yawang Valley, begging the Medicine King to nurse me back to health. I was only brought back home upon my coming-of-age ceremony. Madame Xu observed my slender frame and asked, "Is her health better now? Has she been betrothed to anyone?" Before my mother could answer, I raised a hand to my mouth and let out a light cough. The cough grew more and more violent, until it seemed I might cough up a lung right in front of Madame Xu. She immediately changed the subject, forcing a smile as she brought up this year's trending jewelry. Even the other ladies, who had been eager to gossip, fell silent one by one. Only my mother wore an expression of deep regret, as if lamenting the lost opportunity to inquire about a few suitable young masters to marry me off quickly. Upon returning to our residence, I softly advised my mother, "Mother, your daughter has just returned. I wish to stay by your and father's side for a few more years to fulfill my filial duties, and to take my time observing the young men in the capital." My mother sighed. "I'm afraid that after today's 100 Flowers banquet, no noble family will be willing to propose marriage to you anymore." I buried my face in my handkerchief, genuinely struggling to suppress a laugh. I had lived in the deep mountains for many years, and my parents, feeling guilty, tasked my playful second brother with showing me around the capital. The capital was prosperous, and at night, Ningen Street was a river of people and carriages, bustling with excitement. Unfortunately, we hadn't gone far before my second brother was distracted by a street performance and lost me in the crowd. I wasn't in a hurry, so I simply followed the flow of people, enjoying snacks and sightseeing. Amidst the noisy street, someone suddenly shouted, "A thief!" He took my money pouch. I tilted my head slightly and caught a glimpse of a figure darting into the crowd ahead. The people around were either pushed aside or hastily made way, leaving only me, a seemingly delicate and frail young lady, standing frozen in the middle of the path in my feigned panic. As the man rushed towards me, a look of alarm flashed across my face, but my hand had already discreetly struck his pressure points. The thief's limbs instantly stiffened, and he collapsed in the middle of the street. Meanwhile, I, with my fragile demeanor, spun lightly as if I had been struck and was sent flying. Everything went as smoothly as planned. The only hitch was that instead of falling to the ground, I was pulled into a sturdy embrace. This person's bust was as solid as a stone wall, with rippling muscles. His height and strength bespoke a man who had practiced martial arts for years. "Miss, are you all right?" I looked up, and what a coincidence. Wasn't this Liam, the general renowned for his glorious military achievements? He came from a noble family and was well acquainted with all the aristocratic young masters in the capital. I instantly transformed into a limp, lifeless fish. I placed a delicate hand on my temple and leaned heavily against his arm. As soon as I stood straight, I quickly covered my mouth and erupted into a fit of coughing. "Miss, let me take you to a physician." There's no need. It's just an old ailment. I'll be fine after a short rest. Just then, my second brother rushed over, his face filled with anxiety, asking if I was injured anywhere before remembering to thank Liam Chen. Liam raised an eyebrow slightly. Brother Sungbo, this young lady is. General, since you haven't met her, you wouldn't know. This is my younger sister. Her health has been poor since she was a child, so she was raised outside the capital and has only recently returned. Miss Meng was just bumped by that thief. I fear her old ailment has relapsed. Brother Sungbo, you should take her home quickly and have a doctor examine her to be safe. My second brother turned to me in a panic. An old ailment. I immediately felt a lump in my throat. If I coughed, I would scare my brother out of his wits, but if I didn't, the persona I was building would be ruined. After a moment's thought, I decisively fainted to complete the act. The next morning, a rumor spread throughout the capital the frail daughter of the Meng family was pushed by a thief, her condition so critical that she couldn't even get out of bed. I sat in the courtyard, cracking melon seeds with one hand and lifting a stone weight with the other, watching as my mother scolded my second brother so fiercely his head practically turned red. The second time I met Liam was at the palace banquet. The emperor hosted a feast for all the officials and their families. I followed my parents into the palace, and we encountered Liam right at the entrance. To my surprise, he still remembered me and even took the initiative to inquire about my well-being. Miss Meng, has your health improved recently? I curtsied gracefully, my voice soft as I replied, thanks to the general's good wishes, I have now recovered. As soon as we were seated, my mother's eyes lit up and she turned to question me. Since when did you become acquainted with Liam? Mother, General Chen was just being polite. You mustn't read too much into it. My mother sighed softly. You're right. Judging by his tone just now, I'm afraid he believes the foolish rumors circulating outside, thinking you're some kind of fragile, ethereal ghost. Reassured, I quietly enjoyed the music and dance during the peaceful banquet. But then, faster than words can tell, a female dancer suddenly drew a flexible sword from her waist and lunged towards the jade steps, and upon those steps sat the reigning emperor. Protect His Majesty. As the cry went out, dozens of shadowy figures descended from the rafters. On the main floor, officials scrambled in chaos, their panicked screams echoing everywhere. Liam immediately led the Imperial Guards into a fierce battle with the assassins. Amid the turmoil, I dashed straight for the jade steps. I had just reached the Emperor's side when the flexible sword in the dancer's hand swung towards us. In that critical moment, I reacted on pure instinct. I wrapped my arms under the Emperor's armpits, lifted him slightly over my head, and moved him from his position, causing the sword strike to miss by a hair's breadth. Just then, Liam, having kicked away an assassin, looked up and saw the scene before him. His already bright eyes widened until they were as large as bronze bells. Who in the world are you? This man was quite something, still harboring suspicions about me at a time like this. While he was engaged with the female assassin, I handed the Emperor over to the guards. As I turned around, I saw another attacker silently approaching him from behind. General, watch out. I grabbed his arm, twisted my body slightly to gain leverage, and lifted him over my head, helping him evade the deadly blow. Liam used the momentum in mid-air to kick away the attacker, then tilted his head to look at me, an eyebrow raised high. Miss Meng, are you truly a person of frail constitution and weak spirit? I smiled gently, my voice soft and flirtatious. It's true. My arms are so sore they're about to fall off. After the palace banquet, that single move made me famous throughout the capital overnight. My carefully crafted image of a sickly, willow-like damsel instantly transformed into that of a monstrously strong brute who could move mountains and lift cauldrons. The common folk spun all sorts of fantastic tales. It was rumored that when the Emperor was attacked that day, I flicked the imperial desk with a single finger, killing 3 or 4 assassins with one blow. Another story claimed I lifted the Emperor with one hand and spun him in my palm without a single hair on his head being disturbed. And another. They say you are a beauty who saved a hero, killing a bear with a single slap and single-handedly rescuing General Liam from dozens of assassins. During dinner, my second brother enthusiastically recounted the stories he'd heard in the tea-houses and taverns, his expression so vivid it was as if he'd witnessed it all himself. My father's beard trembled, my mother could only sigh in resignation, and my eldest brother's face was stern. My second brother grew more animated as he spoke, while my third brother clapped and cheered in approval. Around the entire table, only I remained calm. In truth, I wanted to throw my head back and laugh. Mother, before, the entire capital gossiped about how sickly I was, and you sighed with worry every day. Now everyone knows I'm as strong as an ox. You should be happy. My mother let out a sigh so heavy it nearly cooled all the dishes on the table. How can you expect me to be happy? The rumors have turned you into a sheet devil. Who will dare to ask for your hand in marriage now? I replied nonchalantly. Perhaps there's someone out there who likes my type. And if no one dares to, it can only mean their taste is lacking. My eldest brother's brow relaxed as he placed a chicken leg in my bowl. Little sister, don't pay it any mind. If you can't get married, your brother will support you for the rest of your life. My second brother winked repeatedly, quickly chiming in with his own suggestion. Of course, those slender, delicate young masters wouldn't dare dream of marrying you, but there's no shortage of military generals in this capital, is there? My father snorted coldly, his stern face showing a hint of disdain. Those coarse brutes from the army barracks are hardly worthy of my daughter. My third brother slammed the table and stood up, declaring boldly, I think Liam isn't bad. Tomorrow, I'll drag him over for my little sister to inspect. My eldest brother handled official court matters, my second brother was busy with his pleasures, and only my third brother served in the military. I thought yesterday's dinner conversation was just idle chatter, but today, Liam actually followed my third brother to our home. My third brother is utterly tactless, he didn't even bother to call me to the front courtyard to receive a guest, instead leading the man directly to the rear courtyard. So when Liam walked in, I was in the yard lifting a large water urn. Fortunately, the urn contained the water lilies and koi fish I had painstakingly cultivated, otherwise, when our eyes met, I might have actually thrown it. I hastily put the urn down and gracefully curtsied in a gentle manner. Liam's expression stiffened for a moment, the corner of his mouth twitching slightly before he nodded in return. Only my straightforward third brother noticed nothing amiss and said cheerfully, next time something like this comes up, just call for your third brother. I have more than enough strength. How can I let a young lady like you do such heavy lifting? With that, he bent down to hug the urn, then tried again, his face flushing red, but he only managed to budge it slightly. This is a bit embarrassing. Head, this urn is really heavy. Huh. I pulled him aside and whispered. Why did you actually bring him here? For you to inspect, of course. Speaking of which, it's quite a coincidence today. I had just arrived at the barracks to find him when he said he had something he wanted to see you about. Something to see me about. I turned my head in suspicion, only to see Liam surreptitiously trying to lift the urn himself. When he caught my eye, he showed no sign of embarrassment. On the contrary, he was quite composed. Kneel down for real. Liam knelt on one knee and clasped his hands. He was about to speak when my third brother couldn't stand it anymore. You little brat, I brought you here for my sister to consider. She hasn't even nodded her approval, and you're already planning to propose. Then we heard him say, Brother Sungwon, you misunderstand. This bow of mine is too. My third brother roared over him. You little brat, don't even dream about it. He finished. To ask the young lady to be my master. The hopes of my entire family shattered like a mirror falling to the ground. They had originally wanted to select a young, well-matched general from the capital to marry me. But those of suitable age and good character were already engaged, while the unbetrothed were either coarse in appearance or lacking in virtue. Only Liam was handsome, from a prominent family, favored by the emperor, and had an impeccable reputation. Unfortunately, he had now officially become my disciple. The day he asked me to be his master, I agreed immediately, sparing my family the trouble of constantly discussing marrying me off to him. That strength, capable of lifting cauldrons and moving mountains, was not a gift from the gods, but the result of arduous training in internal energy. General Chen, your aptitude is not bad. Achieving mastery of your internal force is only a matter of time. Liam clasped his hands again and bowed deeply. I implore Master to guide me. From then on, for several months, whenever he was free, he would come to the Meng residence to ask me for martial arts instruction. As time passed, a new set of rumors began to circulate in the capital. It was said that during the palace banquet, the daughter of the Meng family had valiantly saved the emperor, and her extraordinary aura had left General Liam sleepless with longing. He couldn't eat or sleep properly, and had to find all sorts of excuses to visit her, just to ease his yearning heart. Some even said that for a great general, he was surprisingly willing to marry into the Meng family, showing no concern for his pride. Nonsense. The way Liam looks at you is no different from how he'd look at his own parents. He's so earnest, he's just short of taking you home to revere for the rest of his life. There, my mother started sighing again after hearing that. That boy is so wonderful, yet his mind seems to be missing a screw. You are as beautiful as a flower, yet all he wants is to be your disciple. But to be honest, from ancient times, the relationship between a master and disciple, I quickly covered my mother's mouth, deliberately coughing my lungs out, cough, cough. This time, I nearly did cough up a lung, all because Liam was standing right behind my mother at that moment. I immediately adopted the calm demeanor of a master and spoke solemnly. Disciple, you have arrived. Liam held an oil paper package with both hands and presented it respectfully. Master, last time you mentioned wanting to eat the crispy, skinned roast duck from the west side of the city. Your disciple went to buy some, but unfortunately there were only 3 left. If it's not enough, I'll go buy more tomorrow. Although your master used to eat 4, I have been on a diet recently. 3 will be sufficient. Liam looked relieved, then carefully asked, then tomorrow, after court, I will go to Li to buy the meat buns you ordered. Will 10 be enough? Before I could answer, I heard my mother sigh again. She looked at me, then at him, wiped the corners of her teary eyes, and turned to leave. What a cruel twist of fate. My master sent a letter, instructing me to carry out a task at the minister's residence. This matter was originally my eldest Marshall brother's responsibility, but he nonchalantly told our master, since our junior sister is in the capital anyway, it would be convenient for her to go and would save a considerable sum on travel expenses. My master, a notoriously frugal man, fell silent for a moment to calculate. Saving money was indeed a big deal, and so the task fell to me. Fortunately, it wasn't difficult. I just had to sneak into the minister's residence in the middle of the night and find a ledger related to a murder case. Tonight, Minister Q was hosting a grand banquet, and with people coming and going, it was the perfect time to act. Dressed in all black, I tapped my toes on the ground, and my body landed silently in the courtyard. I evaded the patrols, knocked out the gate guards, and easily infiltrated the study. Master had mentioned in his letter that Minister Q's study had a hidden chamber where all important items were kept. I fumbled around in the darkness for a long time before finally finding the hidden mechanism. After slipping into the secret room and retrieving the ledger, I was about to close the door when my hand brushed against the wall and something felt off. What is this? Tisk, let me feel it a little more. Have you touched enough? A deep voice rang out, accompanied by a palm strike as sharp as a blade, slicing through the air towards me. Oh, not bad at all. I was worried that a loud commotion would attract the guards, so I had no intention of fighting. I only dodged and looked for a way to retreat. It seemed this person also didn't want to make a big scene. His fists and feet were fast but controlled, avoiding any loud noises. I immediately understood, this man was also a thief here to steal this very item. Brother, you steal your things and I'll steal mine. We may not be on the same side, but we're in the same boat. Who's in the same boat as you? You little thief, hand over the item. Oh, so he was after this ledger too. Just then, the sound of footsteps grew closer from outside. Without a word, I kicked straight towards his lower body, aiming for a very specific weak spot. The other person grew anxious, his voice filled with anger. What about me? My lady used her foot, not her hands. What are you getting flustered about? You speak so improperly. You are utterly shameless and vulgar. You're a hooligan of a woman. That little thief had a tall, muscular build, yet his face was fair and handsome. But he wore a mask, clearly not wanting to be recognized. Without hesitation, I swiftly flipped off his mask. I had planned to escape through the window while he was distracted covering his face, but under the faint moonlight streaming in, that familiar face was revealed with perfect clarity. It was Liam again. Truly my good disciple. Even your nighttime activities are in perfect sync with your master's. Just then, a shout came from outside. Quick, inform the master. Someone has broken into the study in the middle of the night. The words had barely faded when Liam and I simultaneously lunged for the window. The problem was, this study only had one window. I grabbed the wooden frame, trying to squeeze past an else. He refused to yield. Give me the ledger. Hearing the footsteps closing in, I landed a firm palm strike on his backside. Go. My palm strike was already powerful, and this time I added a few extra measures of internal energy, sending him flying several yards from the window. I followed, leaping onto the roof. Liam was sprawled on the ground, glaring furiously at me. He glanced back over his shoulder, then rubbed his rear and quickly vaulted over the wall to escape. You insolent brat, showing no respect for your elders. This master is just teaching your tender behind a lesson. The next morning, Liam arrived at our residence with a noticeable limp. Knowing full well what had happened, I still asked with feigned concern, "Disciple, why are you walking so strangely today?" Liam tried to stand straight and cleared his throat. "Last night, Minister Kai hosted a banquet. Your disciple drank a little too much and accidentally slipped on the steps on my way out. It's nothing serious." My face showed deep concern, but inwardly I snorted. This kid wasn't entirely foolish. Using the excuse of falling while drunk conveniently deflected suspicion about sneaking into the study at night, while also covering up the injury on his rear. From the outside it didn't look like much, but when I slapped it last night, it felt both firm and curved. Quite a pleasant sensation to the touch. "Master, what are you looking at?" I quickly averted my gaze and regained my composure, beginning to instruct him on his techniques. "Your rear is injured. Today, we'll practice something else." Liam looked at me silently, then suddenly asked, "Master, how did you know I was injured on my rear? I don't believe your disciple mentioned it." I froze for a second. "Haha, I didn't." I gave his backside another firm slap. I replied decisively, "Don't you call me master. My eyes are as sharp as torches." The pain made Liam grit his teeth and his eyes widen, and he collapsed face down on the ground. This was good. A sore rear would make his mind less sharp, preventing him from accidentally guessing the truth and growing suspicious. "Little sister, the streets are bustling today. Let your second brother take you for a walk." I was waiting for Liam to arrive, standing in the courtyard, when my second brother, impeccably dressed, cheerfully invited me out. "Ningen Street is crowded every day. What's so new about it?" My second brother fanned himself with a paper fan, looking every bit the dashing, romantic young master. "You don't understand. Today is the selection for the flower courtesan. Beauties are gathered as thick as a garden in full bloom." I shot him a glance. "No wonder you look so sly today. You're practically drooling. How can you say that about your own brother?" I heard the jade-faced scholar will also be there, famous for his romantic flair, to compose a poem for the winner. Don't you want to meet the scholar who has captured the hearts of so many young maidens? The jade-faced scholar, just an old acquaintance. I was just about to get up when Liam arrived. "Master, where are you going?" My second brother, for once being honest, blurted out, "She wants to go see that handsome." I quickly covered my second brother's mouth and said with a smile, "Second brother mentioned there's a flower courtesan selection today. I was curious to see which beauty would win." Liam nodded slightly. "Then your disciple will come again tomorrow." I breathed a sigh of relief. Good. But to my surprise, my second brother had already slung an arm around his shoulder and was dragging him along. "Why pretend to be so serious? Come with me to see the beauties." There were indeed a great many beauties gathered. However, the so-called jade-faced scholar was nothing more than a pale-faced pretty boy. "Little sister, look at that scholar in the white robes on the balcony. His face is as bright as jade, his figure elegant, his demeanor truly romantic and handsome. In a word, beautiful." Liam glanced up at him, then looked back down at me. "Do you like that type of man? The dog I raised in Yawang Valley has more spirit than him." I made an excuse to leave. "I'm going to the shop over there to pick out a hairpin. You two go ahead and watch." In reality, I slipped in a small alley to find an abandoned house to change my clothes. Below the flower viewing pavilion, the crowd was bustling, and the cheers grew louder and louder. The jade-faced scholar on the high balcony leaped into the air, his brush flying across a long scroll of white paper. He moved with the grace of a celestial being, untouched by the mortal world, yet his strokes carried the powerful momentum of one wielding a sword to embrace the moon and part the waves. The crowd watched in awe, holding their breath, not daring to make a sound. Just as the jade-faced scholar was about to put the final stroke on his masterpiece, a figure in purple burst through the air, a cold glint of a sword heading straight for the long scroll. In an instant, the masterpiece that had yet to be revealed was shredded into countless scraps of paper, fluttering down from above like white petals. The smile on the jade-faced scholar's face froze, but he struggled to maintain a gentlemanly demeanor in front of the crowd. He suppressed his anger and asked, "Miss, what is the meaning of this?" I charged forward with my sword. "Your granny here came especially to beat you today." At this point, the jade-faced scholar finally saw the mask on my face clearly. He exclaimed in horror, "It's you. You're from Qionglu, aren't you?" "That's right. Today, I will avenge my senior sister and beat you, you heartless man, to death. She waits for you in misery at Yawang Valley, while you are here, indulging in debauchery. You dog. Your granny will cripple you. Beating him to death was out of the question. I beat his pale face until it was swollen like a pig's head, then landed a swift kick to his vital parts. After the kick, I made my escape, returning to the abandoned house in the alley to change back into my clothes. However, just as I took off my outer robe, I sensed someone behind me. Who is it? I instinctively threw a hidden weapon behind me. Turning around, I saw Liam staring at me with wide eyes. Keep looking and I'll gouge your eyes out. Liam snapped back to reality and quickly turned his back, his ears turning as red as if they were about to bleed. He stammered. Why is it you? I finished changing and walked around to face him, looking him straight in the eye. What did you see just now? Liam averted his gaze, his neck also starting to blush. I unintentionally offended you. What did I take off? I raised an eyebrow, my eyes sweeping his broad shoulders and trim waist, then back to his firm chest. I stated plainly, let me see yours. I had thought Liam was a reserved person, but I never expected him to start taking off his clothes without the slightest hesitation. After hearing my words, he was only stunned for a moment before looking back into my eyes and beginning to remove his garments, one by one. With each piece he removed, he took a step forward, remove another, and he moved closer still. His sheer presence was overwhelming. Wait, why are you getting so close to me? By now, Liam's entire body was flushed, but he fought to suppress his embarrassment. I was afraid you couldn't see clearly. I'm not blind. Even if you were, it's all right. He suddenly grabbed my hand. His palm was tense and sweaty, but his expression was resolute and upright. You can use your hands to feel. Oh heavens, what on earth was happening? I had never felt so helpless in my entire life. Liam, you've misunderstood. I'm not the kind of person you think I am. What I meant was, you saw mine, so I'll see yours, and then we'll be even. I have no intention of taking advantage of you. His expression was righteous and sullen. But I want to take advantage of you. What? Was he insane? Or was I deaf? Ever since he walked through that door, how did his usually quiet mouth become so possessed? Just as I predicted, his next words were even more outrageous. Alara Meng, I want to marry you. Liam might have actually gone mad. He really did run to the Meng residence every single day, even shamelessly offering to marry into our family. Even my third brother thought he must be seriously ill. Is there something wrong with Liam's head? He just told mother that his family has plenty of sons, so if she can't bear to part with you, he's willing to marry into the Meng family. I blinked and asked, does his family have an especially large number of sons? My third brother rubbed his forehead in frustration. Is that the main point? Little sister, the point is, our family doesn't lack for sons either. We do. Who says we don't? My mother led her future son-in-law over, her face beaming with a smile. The first time I met Liam, I felt an instant connection. Thinking back now, it's truly a case of if you're not family, you don't enter the same door. Hearing that affectionate name, Liam, I almost swallowed the stone weight in my hand on the spot. I quickly dragged Liam into a room, shut the door to block my mother's eager gaze, but as soon as I turned around, I bumped into his solid chest. Liam said seriously, whatever you want to do to me, I am willing. Why did that sound so strange? What could I possibly do to you? Didn't you want to see my body before? I'll let you see it today. I've lost my mind. How can this man say such shameless things with such a stern face? Liam, tell me the truth. Are you possessed by a demon, or are you just teasing me? He seriously began to undress again. I frantically grabbed his collar. Even if you let me see, I won't let you see mine. Besides wanting to lust after my body, I really can't think of any other reason why he would be so eager to act like a rogue. I am not teasing you. His strong, fair arm reached past my ear, bracing against the door behind me. His powerful frame pressed close, his righteous gaze fixed on me. The serious and proper Liam exuded a deadly charm. I am just trying to win your favor. I want you to like me. Because I like you. Liam said I had saved him on the battlefield at the border. At that time, the army he led was ambushed by the enemy. Just as they were about to be annihilated, it was I who descended from the heavens, tearing a hole in the enemy's encirclement for them, ultimately turning the tide and securing victory. I don't remember. This was not a lie. Although Lingyan Pavilion was a martial arts sect, its members held patriotic sentiments. I had also followed our master's orders many times to go to the border and fight the enemy. It was just that each trip was rushed, and I had no memory of saving him. I remember you were wearing that very mask from the flower viewing pavilion. Ah. But that mask was specially made by Lingyan Pavilion. Almost every disciple in the sect has one. Lingyan Pavilion was on the peak of Mount Lingyan, and Yawang Valley was at its foot. Although I was a disciple of Yawang Valley, my playful nature as a child led to a fortunate encounter where the master of Lingyan Pavilion took a liking to me and accepted me as a disciple. That's why the jade-faced scholar recognized me by the mask alone. Because in Yawang Valley, I was the only one he had ever seen wear it. Everyone has one. He grabbed my arm. The day you saved me, you were wearing a purple outfit, identical to the figure at the flower viewing pavilion. Hearing this, I understood completely. He had indeed mistaken me for someone else. The person you met must have been my senior sister Xian. In our sect, she loves wearing purple. Even the outfit I wore at the flower viewing pavilion was a gift from her before I left the mountain, to motivate me to practice diligently after returning to the capital. Liam took a step back in disbelief, silent for a moment before saying, "You're lying to me." But while his words insisted I was lying, the very next moment he snatched his clothes from the floor and bolted out the door. My third brother stood stunned in the courtyard, pointing at him, then at me. After a long pause, he stammered, "Sister, did you forcelessly by the door," placed a palm over my chest, and let out a faint smile. That was a close one. Fortunately, from that day on, Liam never came again. I, on the other hand, had gotten into the habit of going out to the courtyard and looking towards the corridor. My second brother teased, "Who are you waiting for?" I replied unhappily, "I'm not waiting for anyone. Little sister, if you're feeling down, let's go to the Namfong Pavilion and listen to some songs." Second brother, I am a respectable young lady. Ever since I returned, the reputation of the third daughter of the Meng family in the capital is unmatched. If I were to step into the Namfong Pavilion today, by tomorrow the entire capital would be buzzing with gossip. To my surprise, my mother came up from behind. Go on, as long as you're happy." I picked my jaw up off the floor and protested in disbelief. "Mother, second brother is telling me to go to the Namfong Pavilion." I heard, "It's not like anyone dares to marry you anyway. Go have as much fun as you want." At this, she started sighing again. "What a shame about that boy Liam. Just last night, I dreamt of your wedding. He was even serving me tea." The moment I heard that, I sprinted straight to the Namfong Pavilion. My second brother was right. I really should go to the Namfong Pavilion, call for a few handsome men, and listen to some songs to cheer myself up. Today, I absolutely could not hear the name, Liam, again. It was truly suffocating. However, what was even more suffocating was running into Liam at the Namfong Pavilion. To be precise, just as a handsome man was baring his fragrant shoulder to seduce me, Liam kicked the door open and stood menacingly at the entrance, sword in hand. He scanned the room, his gaze finally landing on me, his eyes instantly turning red with fury. The handsome man beside me trembled as he pulled his clothes back on, whispering to me, "Is this gentleman your husband?" "No." The handsome man relaxed and once again revealed his fragrant shoulder. However, the next moment a longsword flew through the air, grazing past the man's shoulder and embedding itself straight into the wooden screen behind him. The handsome man tearfully pulled his clothes back together and scrambled out the window. The remaining men looked at me, then at each other, then at the murderous-looking Liam blocking the door. They all wisely jumped out the window. "Hey, can't you at least leave one behind? I've already paid." But no one paid me any mind. Only Liam walked over, looking as if he wanted to devour me whole. "Why are you still in the capital?" Liam sneered. "Am I in your way of embracing men left and right by being in the capital?" I said earnestly. "Be now, you should be on your way to Lingyan Peak, to Lingyan Pavilion to find my senior sister Xian." He overturned the table and kicked over a chair, leaving the room in a mess with nowhere to vent his anger. "Alara Meng." His voice was loud but mine was louder. "Lime, you show no respect for your elders. I am your master. I won't be an eyesore to you. I'm leaving." I thought when Liam said he was leaving, he meant leaving the Namfong Pavilion. He did, however, leave the capital. But he didn't go to Lingyan Pavilion to find senior sister Xian. Instead, he requested to be sent to the southwest to quell a rebellion. The southwest had suffered from floods and broken levees, leaving farmlands submerged. Before the plague had even subsided, bandits were already causing trouble. Liam's trip this time was a self-requested mission to eliminate the bandits in the southwest. When my mother heard about this, she said in shock, I heard those bandits are ferocious, murdering, looting, and preying on women, committing every imaginable evil. Isn't Liam's trip incredibly dangerous? My chopsticks, poised to pick up food, froze. My third brother said, those bandits even dare to kill local officials. Wave after wave of suppression troops have all met their end there. Although Liam is a seasoned warrior, the southwest is not like the north. The terrain is easy to defend but hard to attack. It's a tough nut to crack. I quietly lowered my head and ate, saying nothing. My second brother glanced at me and deliberately said in a loud voice, to die for one's country on the battlefield is a noble end. Why bother with being brought home in a shroud? I threw down my bowl, rushed back to my room, grabbed my sword, and left. My mother chased after me, asking where I was going. I mounted my horse and laughed with abandon. To fetch you a son-in-law. When I found Liam, his armor was tattered, a broken arrow was embedded in his chest, and blood dripped from his hem onto the muddy ground beneath his feet. The sword wound on his left leg was so deep the bone was visible, yet he stood tall, leaning on his sword. Soldiers kill. At the general's command, a sky-shattering roar erupted. But a fiery projectile suddenly exploded from the front, blasting away the bandits halfway up the mountain. As the gunpowder smoke cleared, a young woman in red stood proudly in the wind. The bandit leader shouted, "Who are you?" I drew my sword and pointed it straight at him. Its blade chilling. "The one who will take your life." With those words, I launched a fierce assault, charging straight into the bandit formation. Where I passed, blood flowed freely, and agonizing screams echoed as I carved a bloody path for the army behind me. The leader on the mountain yelled, "Release the boulders for me." Giant rocks rolled down the mountain, breaking the formation of the advancing army. The bandit was gloating. Wumu Mountain is easy to defend and hard to attack. Anyone who wants to come up will die at the foot of this mountain for me. A soldier cried out, "General! General, are you all right?" I suddenly turned my head and saw that the severely wounded Liam behind me couldn't dodge in time and was struck by a boulder. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth with his thumb and looked up at me. Across the chaotic battlefield, our eyes met. "I'm fine." His words were clearly for the soldier, yet they seemed to travel through the smoke of battle to reassure me. I saw him grit his teeth, the veins on back of his hand bulging, as he struggled to stand, leaning on his sword. I should have been relieved, but a surge of anger rose within me. I turned and glared fiercely at the bandit leader. "You dare to hurt my man? Are you tired of living?" The smiles on the bandits' faces froze. One by one, they stared in disbelief as I lifted a giant boulder with my bare hands and hurled it. One boulder, two boulders, the rocks that had rolled down were now flying back up. Wumu Mountain is easy to defend and hard to attack. Today, your granny will break it for you once and for all. You can just die on this mountain. The bandit leader frantically dodged a massive boulder and spat. "This woman is some kind of demon. Kill her for me." As the bandits surrounded me, a hand grabbed my arm, pulling me behind him. Liam finally spoke his first words to me since we'd been reunited. "What are you doing here?" "To bring you back to the capital." He lowered his gaze and said self-deprecatingly, "Bring me back. Weren't you tired of the sight of me?" I desperately wanted to give him a good beating, but there was no time. The bandits were already charging. So, I grabbed his hand, gave it a slight flick, and sent him flying into the air. Liam and I had perfect chemistry. He soared into the air and landed a powerful stomp on the faces of the bandits. I frowned, adopting the tone of a master as I lectured him. "As the saying goes, when you fight, don't hit the face. Wouldn't it have been better just to kill them?" Liam said coldly. The sight of them annoyed me. Stomping on them a couple of times felt good. Just then, a hidden weapon flew towards Liam's back. I swung the sword in my hand, deflecting it. "You despicable dog. What kind of hero attacks from behind?" The bandit leader was indeed no hero. He actually turned and fled up the mountain. I tapped my toes lightly and leaped into the air, drawing the iron whip from around my waist. The end of the whip, tipped with a sharp point, shot out like a long-tailed arrow, piercing through the back of his neck. After I killed the bandit leader, I turned to look for Liam. He had already cleared out the remaining bandits with his surviving soldiers. Liam leaned on his sword, watching me approach. He suddenly lost his strength, his left knee hitting the ground, but his eyes were fixed on me as he slumped to the side. "Hey, don't you die on me." I cradled his head and slapped his face firmly. "Wake up for me." He couldn't die. I still had so much to say to him. After a long moment, Liam's tightly shut eyes impatiently fluttered open. "Alara Meng, stop slapping. My face is swelling up. I thought he was dying, so in my panic, I had used a bit too much force. There was no time to lose. I scooped him up in my arms and hurried to find a medic. Liam suddenly spoke again. Besides you, does anyone else in Lingyan Pavilion use a whip? No. He chuckled and murmured, it really was you. I looked down at him, wondering if the fall had scrambled his brains. I'm saying you look beautiful in red. I raised an eyebrow, a radiant smile spreading across my face. You fool. This is a wedding dress. Alara Meng, I take this battle as my betrothal gift to welcome you, Liam, into my home. Liam said that the one who saved him on the battlefield was me, because the woman in purple that day used a long whip made of iron chains. The sound of the whip cracking through the air echoed across the desolate plains like a howling wind, a sound that had resonated in his heart for years. On the day of the flower courtesan selection, although I didn't use a whip, my movements and techniques were already etched into his dreams. A single glance was all it took for him to recognize me. No wonder he had been so respectful before, always calling me master. Yet on that day, he had been so bold and unrestrained, even daring to call me by my full name. I sighed and said, the ancients say a life saved should be repaid with one's body. I never thought my husband would be so perceptive. It seems I'll have to do more good deeds in the future to find such a wonderful match. Liam frowned and said coldly, from now on, you have me. Who else do you want to pine for? I deliberately teased him. I like you now, but that doesn't mean I'll like you in the future. If you become ugly or old, or displease me, I'll naturally find a new love. I was only joking, but I didn't expect him to take it seriously. The day he came to the Meng residence to propose, he presented the sword that had been with him through countless battles to my parents. Liam makes this vow with this sword in this life, I will have only Alara. We will hold hands for 100 years, and I will never fail you in this lifetime. Hearing these words, my father was extremely pleased with his son-in-law. My mother was moved to tears. But in reality, he turned to look at me with deep affection, leaned in, and whispered in my ear, if you ever dare to find a new lover, either you use this sword to kill me, or I'll use this sword to kill that dog of a man. Our wedding was incredibly lively. People from both Yawang Valley and Lingyan Pavilion attended. At the banquet, my two masters competed in drinking, each airing their grievances about the other. My precious disciple was meant to practice medicine across the land, saving the dying and healing the wounded. But you tricked her into killing people for you, you scoundrel. She is a natural-born martial arts genius. Such a promising talent, and you had her cooped up in Yawang Valley tending to flowers and plants every day. What a waste of heaven gift. It's all your fault. She ran up the mountain every day. Her calves have gotten so thick. If you hadn't limited her to only half a day with me, she would have long inherited my legacy. My eldest brother tried to hold back my master from Yawang Valley, while my second brother held back my master from Lingyan Pavilion. My third brother stood between them, afraid they would actually come to blows. My martial brothers pulled Liam aside for a sparring match, while my martial sisters gathered around me to chat. Senior sister Xian reminisced. That must have been in the 10th year of the Yuanfeng era, right? We were ordered by master to go to the battlefield together. On the way, you soiled your clothes, so I lent you this spare set I brought. Hearing her say that, I vaguely recalled something like that happening. Senior sister Xian shook her head and joked. What a pity. If your handsome husband's eyesight had been a little worse, he might have ended up with your senior sister here. Senior sister Mengyan turned to size up Liam from a distance and recited a poem with satisfaction. Broad shoulders, trim waist, firm buttocks, a handsome face, high martial skill. His family background and knowledge are all excellent. I wonder if he has any brothers. I smiled as I looked at Liam. He really did seem perfect in every way. Just looking at him made my heart feel warm and tingly, a feeling no one else could evoke. At that moment, as if sensing my gaze, Liam looked over at me. Amidst the shimmering lights and intoxicating aroma of wine, our love was mesmerizing. It was as if one glance could span 10,000 years. After we got married, my mother grew increasingly fond of her son-in-law and increasingly dissatisfied with me. Did you have another fight with Liam? I laughed in exasperation. Mother, what do you mean? Another fight? You make it sound like I'm unreasonable and picking fights every day. My mother shot me a glare and huffed. It's only because Liam is patient with you. If you weren't my own daughter, I would have given you a piece of my mind. To avoid being scolded, I had to tell her, Liam has military matters to attend to recently and can't come home. It's not because we're having marital problems. Oh my, how can the military barracks compare to home? The food isn't as good, and the sleep isn't as restful. That's right, I'll have the kitchen prepare some food. You should take it to him. And so, when I arrived at the barracks with a food container, I overheard some idle chatter about me. The sparring match on the training grounds had just ended, and someone called out, "General, you're free today. Come drink with us at the Drunken Immortal Pavilion." Liam smiled and said, "You all go ahead. Just put it on my tab. General, come with us, it'll be more lively." Another person chimed in with a loud laugh. "Our general is a married man. He has to go home and appease his wife. What would a bachelor like you know?" The surrounding soldiers burst into laughter. When it comes to being clean managed by one's wife, our General Chen is number one in the capital. A gruff voice mumbled, "Back in my village, if a woman talks too much, a couple of smacks will set her straight. But our general's wife is so delicate and soft, the general probably can't bear to." The general's wife is delicate and soft. I casually picked up a stone weight from the ground and tossed it. It landed right next to that man's foot. He cried out in shock, and the entire group of men turned their heads in unison to look. "My apologies," my hand slipped. I smiled sweetly. "But, who were you just saying you'd smack a couple of times?" When Liam saw me, a ripple of emotion filled his eyes. He trotted over. "Wife, you came to find me." I gave a cold smile. "Of course, I'm here to live up to my reputation as the strictly managing wife." Only later did I find out that Liam often used me as a shield. When others invited him to drink at brothels, he would say his wife managed him very strictly at home, and he wouldn't dare get involved. When others invited him to dinner, he'd say, "My wife has already prepared a meal." When others tried to gift him beautiful women, he would smile and remind them, "My wife is the most jealous person I know. If she comes looking for you with a sword tomorrow, I'm afraid I won't be able to stop her." In short, even when his own deputy asked if he was cold, he had to mention, "These knee guards were handmade for me by my wife." After returning home and closing the bedroom door, I drew the iron whip from around my waist. "Liam, you're looking for a beating." Lam, however, grabbed the other end of the whip, pulled me to the bedside, his thin lips parting slightly. "I invite my wife to instruct me." Bonus story: that day, Liam and I had planned a night stroll, but I unexpectedly received a message from my master, ordering me to investigate the Imperial prison that night. Coincidentally, Liam also had official duties and couldn't accompany me. My senior sister is heartbroken over that scumbag and is drinking herself into a stupor at the Drunken Immortal Pavilion. I have to go console her. An urgent 800 Li message from the border has arrived. The Emperor has summoned me to the palace to discuss military strategy. I reluctantly wrapped my arms around his waist. "Then let's reschedule for another day." He lingered, pressing a kiss to my forehead. "Another day, I will rent a flower boat and invite my wife to enjoy the moon on the river. My husband need not worry. My wife should rest early." After seeing Liam out, I rushed back to my room, changed into black clothes, and vanished into the night. The divine thief, Xianxia, had been captured at the Imperial Palace and imprisoned. However, the item he had promised my master months ago had yet to be delivered to Lingyun Pavilion. Left with no choice, I had to infiltrate the prison at night to retrieve it. "My master ordered me to come and get your item." Xianxia, though a prisoner, was lounging comfortably in his cell. "Why should I believe you?" I glared at him. "I came here on my master's orders. Besides me, who else would know to ask you for this item?" He gave a mysterious smile. "Well, isn't someone else here now?" I focused my hearing and, sure enough, there were extremely light footsteps approaching. Before I could turn, a sharp palm strike came at me. I leaned to dodge and retaliated. The newcomer was dressed in black, his face hidden by a mask. He was tall, and his attacks were powerful. I drew the long whip from my waist, aiming for a quick victory, but the person hesitated, and his assault weakened. Wait a minute, why did this figure and fighting style seem so familiar? After a few more exchanges, we both tacitly stopped and spoke at the same time. "Liam. Alara." Well. He was supposed to be in the Imperial study, and I was supposed to be at the Drunken Immortal Pavilion. Yet here we both were, in the Imperial prison, both dressed in black, sneaking around. "Why are you here?" We spoke in unison again, stunning Xianxia, who was enjoying the show from the side. Xianxia looked left, then right and asked, "Do you two know each other? Are you friends or foes?" I ignored him and interrogated Liam. "You said the Emperor summoned you, and that's why you couldn't go for a walk with me. So you were lying to me." "Liam, your nerve has grown quite a bit, daring to lie to me now." Liam ignored him too, questioning me instead. And you said you were going with your senior sister. Is this the drunken immortal pavilion? Xianxia chuckled softly. Alright. So you're not enemies, not friends, but a couple eh? We both shot Xianxia a glance before moving to a corner to whisper. I told him I was on a mission from my master to get the promised item from the divine thief. He told me that Xianxia had stolen an important item from the palace, but its whereabouts were unknown. According to an informant, a person in black would come tonight to rescue him and retrieve the item. He was under the Emperor's orders to recover the stolen object. I frowned. So you were planning to pose as his rescuer to get information out of him, but then you saw me and thought I was the person in black. He frowned as well. But you're not here to rescue him. So who is? We looked at each other and instinctively dodged. 2 poison needles embedded themselves in the wall. The person in black was behind us, his moves vicious. I pointed at Liam and said to the attacker, "Hey, I'm here to get something from Xianxia. He's the one here to catch you. Why are you trying to kill me?" The attacker's hoarse voice rasped. "Xianxia said you two are a couple. If you're going to die, of course you should die together. You have no honor. We may share a bed, but tonight we are not on the same side." Liam suddenly looked at me, his gaze analytical and strange. I sighed inwardly. This straightforward fool. My words were just a temporary tactic to make the attacker lower his guard so we could strike. And he actually believed them. But our opponent was no fool. He was a ruthless killer who attacked without another word. Liam and I joined forces, and naturally, we beat him until he fled for his life. Seeing his accomplice captured, the divine thief, Xianxia, made a deal. "Let me go, and the items are yours." Xianxia gave me the item my master wanted, then tossed the box he stole from the palace to Liam. As he left, he boasted, "I'll return it to you today, but I can just steal it back another day." Ha ha ha. The item from the palace was extremely secret and precious. Liam immediately took the box to the palace to report. By the time he returned late at night, I had already bathed and was ready for bed. He stood before the bed and said pointedly, "So, we are not on the same side, but we do share a bed, is that right?" I was stunned for a moment, then shot him an annoyed glare. "You really hold a grudge." My words back then were to trick that attacker, and you took them seriously. "You are my husband, of course I'm on your side." Liam leaned down, bracing his hands on either side of me. "My wife's memory is poor, so allow your husband to offer a little reminder. 2 years ago in the study of Minister Kui's residence, a certain female hooligan not only got handsy but also spoke a certain phrase." I retorted anxiously, "Who's a female hooligan? What do you mean handsy?" I was feeling for the secret mechanism. "Who told you to stand there in the way? Wait a minute, how did he know the person from that year was me?" Liam smirked. "Tonight, you said that though we share a bed, we are not on the same side. Those words are identical to what you said that year." I carefully recalled my words from that night. I think I said, "Brother, you steal your things, and I'll steal mine. We may not be on the same side, but we're in the same boat." No wonder he looked so strange in the prison tonight when I said that. It turned out he wasn't misunderstanding me, I was misunderstanding him. I giggled sheepishly and wrapped my arms around his neck coquettishly. "Husband." Back then I had to maintain my image as the Grand Tutor's daughter. It's only natural to have a little secret, right? Liam continued to smirk. "That year, you lifted my mask, and after recognizing me, you ruthlessly struck my rear. How should we settle this debt?" In my haste back then, I did use quite a bit of force. But if we were to be meticulous about it, I was still his master at the time. So what if I smacked his little behind? "Husband." Liam's large hand slid down my waist, his tall frame pressing closer. He leaned down and whispered ambiguously in my ear, "Wife, the night is long. Your husband will be a little more gentle." This story beautifully teaches that authentic strength is the foundation of profound love. Elara's power, concealed behind a fragile facade, was the very essence that captured Liam's heart. Their journey reminds us that true love isn't about conforming to expectations, but about finding someone who recognizes and cherishes the powerful, genuine you. The right partner won't be intimidated by your strength, they will be utterly captivated by it, celebrating the magnificent hero you truly are. The story ends here for now. If it touched your heart or left you thinking, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Please like, subscribe, and share Raccoon Tale to help more stories come to life. See you in the next tale.